I'm accompanied today by Rasha Hamoudi, who will be supporting with sign language. I will be soon introducing our wonderful guest, Dr. Matthias Kettemann, who will navigate us through the AI world and the rules and the norms. And Basant is also here. She will mention closing notes about Rakameya, and it's really a pleasure. My name is Lina Yassin. I'm from Palestine, and I have been member of DAN for now a couple of years. Before we start, I thought that it'll be so great that, how many people are here now? That 22 people decided, although it is hot, although it's great weather, to join us for this closing. It is really a pleasure to have you all around. I'd like you all to go to menti.com. I will post again on the chat the link, and please insert the code that I have on the screen. And give us thumbs up to make sure that you are eligible to vote. This is an anonymous voting, and we just want to make sure that we get an inclusive view of what you, as our dearest participant, are really thinking of Rakameya and the content today. So 10 people out of 21 participants. I think we can do a bit better. Let me navigate to the next slide. Let's see, how are you feeling today? Voting. Great. Okay, not so good. We have our first grade. Okay, 2. As I mentioned, it is really anonymous, so you can actually be as active as you would like. So only 3 people are voting. More to come. This is just the start. Let me aim when we have already the 10 people who gave us the thumbs up. Okay. 3 and 3. 3 people are curious. I hope that this person who's not feeling so good, that you will be able to recover soon. The weekend is on the door. Okay, let me move to the next question. I'm very curious, which session did you guys attend in Rakameya? I hope that you're able to multiple choice. Business and the future of work, art and culture, civic participation, gender and equality and inclusion, and the online media and journalism. So Rasha, this is for you. I mean, the majority of our callers here have been really delighted to be in the gender equality and inclusion session. I have been to a couple of sessions that we had today and in those past 3 days, and it was impressive how the content was really very, very high level. Okay. 6 people at the business and future of work, 4 art and culture, 3 for civic participation, 5 for gender equality inclusion in the media and journalism. Now, obviously, some people really went to a couple of sessions and systematically chose how can we maximize our learning, and that's already a great sign. Let me move to the next. Now that we have the motto of our future is digital, how much do you think that in today's conference, the 3 days, do you feel that you are equipped better to the digital future? Yeah, maybe we should have like a question where it says like before and after, but let's really get your question, your impressions, and are we equipped to shape the digital future? Okay, maybe the 3 more people that were silent at the beginning could also participate here. And finally, I want to move to the last teaser question. This is a rating question. When we talk about artificial intelligence sphere, there are obviously a lot of problems that come with it. Is it the misinformation, the security bias, the propaganda, the hate speech, or others? Just rate what you think is the most prominent. Now, obviously, my choice of what are the problems, it is not very exclusive, because propaganda and hate speech, or propaganda and informations are still in the same line of thought. But I wanted still to make the choice more intuitive. So bias, misinformation, security, propaganda, and hate speech, and also the misinformation and the bias. Okay. I think I'll pause at this moment, and I will now officially, introduce Dr. Kettemann, and also introduce how was the choice to have you here. At Rakameya, our motto this year is "Our future is digital." That is motto for this year. When we think about the future, technology is only an instrument. It is just the tool. But if we focus about continuous improvement, learning in mind, then we wonder where's the intelligent part. In our Arabic region, we've been heavily dealing with politics, with rules, with regulations, and also with forms of ruling. So when we talk about democracy in some of the countries, we talk about autocracies in some of the countries, we talk of even of oligarchies in some of our MENA region. But is it the time today to talk about AIcracy? This is a new term that will be coined, where algorithms have been really very instrumental in beating humans in games, or help achieve a lot of knowledge. And when is the time that humans and machines are working together? We have all to remember that the algorithms have been built by engineers, by us humans. But how is the self-learning happening? How is the developing of this logic? How much human influence is being really there in the design process, but also in the regulation process? Algorithms are neither objectives nor neutral, and because they're the outcome of the human deliberation and struggle. I'm very honored today to have Dr. Kettemann with us. Dr. Kettemann is a research program lead at the Leibniz-Institut for Media Research and the Hans Bredvo Institute. His research has been focusing on digital rights and internet governance at the Humboldt University for Internet and Society in Berlin. He holds a degree in law from Graz, Geneva, and also Harvard University. And he's even been consulted to give a lot of advisory to digital rights to parliamentary committees at the German Bundestag. He's written a lot of articles and books, and he's authored to mainly topics that have to do with the freedom of expression on the internet, and has been translated to many languages. Dr. Kettemann, it is my pleasure today to really listen and learn from you at Rakameya's Our Future is Digital. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much for having me, and for giving me the opportunity to share some thoughts on our digital futures, our digital future. And may I say, this is a wonderful, a perfect setting, a fantastic conference that you have put together. Let me share my my slides with you. So as our great moderator has told you, I've been working on online rules and online power, and the question, who decides what you can do online? And the answer to that, of course, has to be you. You should decide what to do online. The key theme of this conference has been that the future, our digital future, is in your hands. We therefore need to put people into the center of all steps of digital decision making. And I will share some thoughts about how you can make that happen. Over the past 2 days, you have talked about the platform economy. You have talked about fake news. You've heard you've heard about national challenges to digital rights, about developments in e-commerce, digital currencies, the changing media landscapes. And you can take all of that knowledge now about how things are and turn that into a source of energy about how things should be in the future. And this will be the topic of this talk tonight. We will focus on how things should be and how things can be. Let us start a little journey. Our goal has to be to achieve sustainable digitalization, not digitalization for its own sake, but digitalization for our good. And we can do that by harnessing the potential of the people, our potential, and by leveraging the power of politics. Politics isn't something bad. Politics is how you make things happen. And the whole MENA region has a long history of people with high potential. Just think about one of the key words that we're using all the time these days on what the computer programs and and AI runs, the algorithms. Algorithms, the word comes from the famous mathematician Al-Khwarizmi. The word algebra too comes from the MENA region. You have a proud history of people with huge potential to influence the way that you shape the future. But politics are powerful too. Yes, I know, as do you much better than I do, that some of the potential of the movement called the Arab Spring remains unfulfilled. But this is something which you can use the idea of a digital new start, and to use that power of politics based on your own vision of the future. You may ask, why now? Why is now the best moment? Well, first of all, you've had 2 days of great inputs. But secondly, this is a special time. It is a moment of crisis, Corona crisis. The world economy isn't doing terribly well. But crisis doesn't always mean necessarily something bad. A crisis, if you look at the word, which comes from ancient Greek, then it means a moment where something old and something new is separated. And this is a vision which you need to incorporate, which you need to think of. A crisis can be something which is good because it allows you to stop with certainties of the past and imagine a stronger, a renewed future in which you are at the center and in which your vision is at the center. You should not ignore what you know. You should not ignore the past. You should not, for instance, ignore that the pandemic has shown us how indispensable the internet is to our digital lives. It has also shown us, however, the limits to our connected identities. This is only going to continue. The internet digital tools will soon be everywhere. There are already now more objects online than people. We will need to conceive of new forms of human and human and machine decision making. You've all heard of robots, but those are just, one kind of machines that take decisions together with you. Soon your fridges and your cars will also talk to you. Your phones already do. All companies have realized that. All companies have become technology companies. German car manufacturers are among the most active companies in the field of artificial intelligence because they want to make their cars smarter. The same goes for states. States also have emerged as key players in technology because they have to. Now it's up to you. States can use technology to make the life of their citizens better, but they can also use technology to control them and to commit human rights violations. Technology as such is neutral, but technology can be used to shape our behavior. It can be used to influence how we act online. And we need to be aware of those influences to be able to counteract them. We also need to be aware that democratic decision-making is shifting from public spheres to private spheres. And in those private spheres, primarily the rules of companies apply. But those rules can be changed and they can be criticized. So we need to reinvent democracy also for the internet age, not only with a view to fighting for our rights against states, but also to fighting for our rights against companies. Technology is often installed in our lives through the use of algorithms. They shape what we see, they shape how we communicate, they help companies take decisions that impact our lives. We might feel disempowered or powerless against algorithms, against automated decision-making systems. But keep in mind, the MENA region has brought forth the very word algorithm. You should own the idea, the concept. You should not be afraid of algorithms. Nobody should. You should rather ask for justifications and explanations for algorithmic decision making, because once you do that, then you can start criticizing the reasons. And once you can start criticizing the reasons, you establish yourself as a powerful, self-determined actor. So you need to seize the moment. You need to be aware of the fact that anything, any technological entity, any artifact has politics. That is to say, it is not just there. It has a history. It has a future. It has a meaning. Technology mediates how we see reality. We need to be keenly aware that we can use technology for good, but that technology can also be used to harm us, and we can use it to harm other people. Let's not do that. We also have to be aware that decisions that seemingly are taken only by machines through code are powerful decisions that impact what we do. We are influenced in everything we do by the machines we interact with. Have you tried making your computer do something that it doesn't want to? No, that doesn't work. It works with people, not with machines. Machines have limits. You also have to be aware that, all of that talk about, fancy phones or good internet is deeply connected to something boring and traditional, infrastructure. Investment in infrastructure is part of what makes digital progress possible. I know that you yourself alone won't be able to, recreate an internet network for a region yourself, but infrastructure is something you have to push for. Never forget infrastructure in your attempt to work on the politics of today. So you can shape, take into account what I've just said, you can shape how digitalization works out across the MENA region. And for that, you have the opportunity to innovate. You don't have to imitate past mistakes of other regions. You can turn differences into opportunities. You can learn from the mistakes of other regions, and you can, I repeat myself, harness the potential of the people and the power of politics. Now, let's be honest. There are some issues that the MENA region has that makes it a bit more difficult than other regions. So for example, there's no one single fully competitive telecommunications market across all MENA states like the EU, which would be difficult because obviously the EU is the EU. There's also no centralized, there's not one centralized power that can, issue national champions that can support individual companies to make them more successful. There is also not a unregulated free market economy with a strong liberal bias like in the US. There are substantial differences in the development between countries, and high-speed internet access is not always available for everybody. But you shouldn't see those issues as stops, but rather as problems to overcome. You don't need necessarily a fully competitive integrated telecommunications market. You can create national best practices and then learn from each other. You should not try to imitate Chinese approach to a centralized power. Rather, you should distribute responsibility, develop regulatory sandboxes, experiment, and then compare. And if it works out well, iterate and use. The unregulated free market economy that the US has led to certain remarkable successes, but also to substantial social problems. Much better to have good rules that ensure platforms are transparent and accountable, and importantly, that they pay their taxes. That helps, build hospitals, for instance. Yes, substantial differences in development exist, but those can be, if not overcome quickly, then at least narrowed by investing into people, by cooperating with technology companies, and by orienting national development policies towards the IT sector. And together with states and companies, we should strive to ensure that the infrastructure necessary to build the next generation of internet networks is constructed. Is this going to be easy? This is not going to be easy, but that's not a problem. If it was easy, it would have already been done. Yes, challenges abound. There are data leaks. There are threats from, for example, autonomous weapons. There is insufficient protection of digital rights. There are attacks against bloggers, dissidents, opposition. There are private companies that have amassed substantial power and extract value from your data. They enforce rules haphazardly. They delete some accounts, some speech, and not others. Those are challenges, but they can be overcome. You can overcome those challenges. You shouldn't feel frozen against those challenges. Rather, you should see them, assess them, and try to overcome them. You are the internet of the future. Like the example of climate change shows us, you have to act now to protect your future freedoms and to shape, and then the future freedoms of your children, and to shape digitalization. You want to shape digitalization because digitalization will at some point be shaped by someone. It should be you. It shouldn't be the actors that don't prioritize the things which you want, your rights, your dignity, your dreams, your hopes, your visions, your ideas, your ideals. How, you may ask? How should you do that? Well, again, you should harness the potential that you have, the potential of the people of the Great MENA region, and leverage the power of positive politics. Focus on what can be done. Focus on making the future of the internet into your future. The next million internet users will not be Europeans. They will be from the MENA region and from Asia. Sorry, I meant the next billion, of course, the next million too. This is where the growth will happen. This is where the potential lies. We have a lot of trust in the MENA region. You can write the next chapter. You can be inspired by what you've heard over the last days, the stories from Sudan to Egypt, from Morocco to the Near East. You can now take that and the networks that you have connected with here and the connections that you've made and start to create. Don't only use the internet, shape the internet, create something, create content, create companies, create value. Demand better from your government, demand better from companies, but don't wait until the better conditions come, until the better services arrive. Don't wait for that. Innovate yourself, criticize and innovate and create. Connect yourself to make yourself more powerful. Create communities all across the MENA region focused on a coherent vision for a common human rights-based digitalization, human rights-based, human development-oriented, and human security-focused. Shape the expectations yourself and don't let the tools of the platforms shape them for you. Don't let companies, don't let governments tell you what you can want. You know that yourself. On the internet, nothing is predetermined. The technologies that we have are tools, and tools can be shaped and can be used. You can decide how to use the tools. You should be the change that you want to see on the internet. You should be the change that you want to see in your region. Don't rely on others. Innovate yourself. Shape the tools, then shape the future. Thank you very much for your attention. I'm very much looking forward to the Q&A session.
Thank you so much, Matthias. It has been a really very powerful call for action. And, you know, thinking of like the circular modular loop, it's true, you know, the Arabs have been one of the forefronts in really innovating in algorithms and in algebras. And now we're, for some reason, lagging behind. But I think the festival of Rakameya these past 3 days have been really showing results of like how are the countries shaping the future, how the people are really owning that sphere, and also determining what, you know, what the future will be, while only using the technology as a tool. Thank you so much for this very wake up call, but also coming with this powerful message. I want to actually recommend for people at some point to open the floor for a question, but maybe I would start with something a bit resonating with this enthusiastic call of yours, Matthias. When we talk about the power of the people, but also the power of politics, I mean, in your call, you know, leveraging the powers of politics and using the potential of people, there is this angst that we have, this fear that we still cannot really dismantle, which is how do we really take ownership to really demand? Today, the internet, sadly, is still owned mainly by private companies that really determine which speeches have been circulating. So I'd like you just to give us a bit some calming notes on the angst that we don't have the power of politics that you're mentioning.
So you're absolutely right. It is true that platforms do own quite a lot of online property. However, there are now so many really good open source projects, open science, open knowledge, starting from Wikipedia and going towards every sector of the internet. Independent of what you want to do, there is I can promise you that there is a open source network. There's an open source software for that. So just as an example, you don't need to buy an expensive Adobe Acrobat or Adobe Photoshop. There are freeware, online-based alternatives to any of those. You don't need to spend necessarily a lot of money on learning how to code. You can do that online. You can quickly learn how to code online. So all the tools, I promise you, are out there. There are strong communities of people across the world that are more than eager to support anybody who wishes to learn. Again, don't rely on companies to innovate. Facebook doesn't have a vested interest in providing you with creative tools to shape online surroundings. They want to be the ones to shape your surroundings. They want to be the ones to tell you what kind of reality you have to experience, because then they can monetize that experience. don't let them do that. Create the spaces yourself. Create the tools yourself. Create the stories yourself. You can be, you know, the main character in your own digital future.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm gonna actually encourage the audience to write questions on the chat, and then I will just pull them to one by one, or like by the. I did.
There's a question from Basant, I think, in the chat. Oh, yeah, okay.
Yes. So Basant was asking really of examples where Europeans were successful in forcing the IT giants to change their policies. And I know that you have been very fortunate recently to get into the doors of Facebook when Facebook allowed some of the scholars to come in, attend, and shadow and get access to how Facebook specifically have been shaping their policies. So I don't know if you can first of all comment on the European challenges, challenging their IT giants, but then tell us a bit about your Facebook story.
With pleasure. So first of all, there are three areas of law where European rules have greatly affected IT, global IT giants. The first one is data protection. Data protection law has been a very successful European export towards American IT companies who have had to accept much more stringent rules than would have been possible under the US approach towards privacy and data protection. But US authorities have also realized that those rules make sense. Now, for instance, the current California law on privacy mirrors how the European General Data Protection Regulation works. The second big area is platform rules regarding speech, so what can be said. It has been European rules that have greatly influenced this new trend towards more responsibility, more transparency, and higher duties for platforms, so that platforms have to tell us more about what kind of content they delete and what kind of content they leave open. And regarding your second question, we have indeed conducted what we've called short-term embedded ethnological normative research at the campus. I wouldn't know how to translate that either to Russia. I'm sorry. To at Facebook campus, and we've looked specifically at how the people responsible for shaping the rules develop those. It's like, you know, if you talk to politicians and ask them, well, I mean, where do the laws come from, right? They usually know, right? Because they're the ones drafting the laws. They talk to other people. They talk to representatives. They talk to lobbyists, right? And we have tracked the same process with a private company setting speech rules. And we're currently doing another follow-up project on the impact of the oversight board that Facebook now has on its rules. If you recall, perhaps the oversight board is an institution that the company gave itself to be a little bit more responsive to global concerns and to doubts as to its democratic legitimacy as a rule maker.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm going to take a question from Hanan. If we can mention a bit about the role of media and the digital media literacy program. Are there best practice examples to combat hate speech, especially inspiring for young people?
Thank you very much for this great question. So there are two dimensions to that. So first of all, media literacy is incredibly important, not only for young people, but throughout societies. We see from numbers that we've studied that media literacy is also an issue within societies, even within developed societies, with people who earn more usually having much higher media literacy, people without jobs usually having much lower media literacy. And this media and digital literacy thereby increases existing cleavages in society. So digitalization has the power to make societies more equal. But if it's done the wrong way, it can also make those who have little lose the small things that which they do have, and make the digital rich move further away from them. So digital literacy is extremely important throughout all societal sectors, from the school to the old people's home, basically. And the second question is regarding hate speech. If I permitted to put the question into two parts. Now, hate speech is challenging because you have to make sure that you are using the right tools. There's some hate speech where you need state intervention and police to prosecute. I'm thinking of hate speech that amounts to calls for violence, right? That amounts to actual calls for offline violence, credible calls. So that would be hate speech that has to be policed through national criminal law. But there is also a huge part of what we call hate speech, which is not even illegal, but which still touches people very, very intimately, and especially women and people with migration histories, and politicians, and within the politicians, female politicians, and even more female politicians with migration histories are constantly attacked online. Here, it is the platforms that have to fight much more effectively against that kind of legal but harmful speech. It is them that have opened up a communicative space. It is their obligation to make sure that anonymous users or pseudonymous users do not misuse their tools to attack those who fight for our democratic system. If you're interested in that, there's been a recent study by the German public television where they interviewed 300 politicians. It doesn't look good. All of them say that they are being confronted with hate speech all of the time, and the companies are not doing enough.
I'll go back to our very quick pulse in the Menti that really showed that one of the biggest challenges is actually the bias and also the free speech or censorship. Just to sort of spice up the discussion a bit, not that we need it, but just to sort of put here at the end of Rakameya, the current war in Gaza, launched by Israel, it actually accumulated a lot of discussions on the media, and one of them was the censorship of the posts posted by Palestinians. And that's why activists have been trying to retap and reorganize how the algorithm is citing. And then there was a huge campaign trying to get the dots out of the Arabic language so that the algorithms will not tap. So my question is, especially when Matthias, you're saying leverage the power of politics and to harness the people's potential, regulations take time. In normal politics, it takes sometimes years for new regulations to happen. But because we're in the private sphere, some companies that's the main platforms where people are really discussing and mobilizing and really doing the main change, they are very quick to actually just shut down those discussions. So I was very fortunate to dive deeper into some of your articles with Habermas, the structural transformation of the public. How does this align? You know, now instead of the feudal system that we're having, instead of the salons where discussions have been now taking place, now we have those private sectors that they're really quick in shutting down the discussions. So again, with your 2 points of power of politics and potential of the people, how do we go about untraining the algorithms that actually not satisfying those needs?
So we don't need to necessarily focus on the algorithms. We need to focus on those who have the power to use the algorithms, right? So just as an example, one of the new legislative proposals sitting at the European Commission's desk right now, the Digital Services Act, has a couple of clauses that would force companies to disclose what kinds of logics their recommender algorithms follow. So what kind of content is being promoted? What kind of content is being hidden? This would go already a long way towards helping researchers being able to analyze how exactly online content is being regulated. You also have to watch out not to think that something is happening out of malice, which can also happen out of stupidity or or just using untrained algorithms. So sometimes things happen by accident. But you are perfectly right that algorithmic tools are not at all suited for nuanced political discussions. If used wrongly, they are a very successful censorship tool. However, I don't think that it is it makes a lot of sense to call companies censors, right? I mean, they are the logic which they have is different. Their logic is to keep everybody moderately happy or moderately unhappy, depending on your view, and keep things basically under control. They don't like outcries. They would prefer much less conflict, a certain kind of conflict, and therefore you have to ask yourself, if you want to change this new feudal system, you have to make those companies be more transparent, more open about the algorithms which they do use, but not only the algorithms, but all the rules which they set, the rule-making procedures which they use, and their relationship with governments. Because in a lot of countries, governments have a very uneasy relationship with these companies. If you think, for instance, of India out of lately, you see how how governmental requests get quickly get content taken down. So if we do criticize companies, which we should take care that we do not underestimate that they could also be a force for good by pushing back against governmental attempts to intrude into our privacy. So it's really not black and white. Companies can be great one day to protect our rights, and the next day their algorithm deletes the Syrian war archive, for example. These are I think these are the complexities we need to live with. We need to develop a certain complexity tolerance. Things are difficult, but they're not unsurmountable. We shouldn't let ourselves focus on the difficulties, but rather focus on the ways to overcome them.
Yeah, that's a very powerful note to sort of not live in this dichotomy. I mean, I could even give a very personal attribute there, because when I was living in Egypt at the time of the Arab Spring, Facebook was the main platform to mobilize the people. And now, being Palestinian in Berlin and seeing the censorship, it is the exact opposite. So yes, and my only hope is that the discussions that are taking place in these normative structures are really very quick to allow the diversity in thoughts, and allow at the end of the day, these private sectors are really mobilized by their businesses rather than by their calls. Maybe if there is another questions from the audience, and I don't see anything in the chat. And before I sort of give the final words for Matthias and afterwards for Basant, maybe if anyone wants to ask Matthias questions, that's the time. So maybe, Matthias, maybe you want to sort of give your final words. What do we do on Monday? This is what we usually ask in the world of companies. Like, what do we need to change Monday so that we are really able to regain our ownership on the internet? What's your final message?
My final message would be, on Monday, well, technically tomorrow is Friday, right? So on Friday you should develop a vision, right? You should develop a goal. Without a goal, you don't know what to aim for, right? You need to develop a goal, a vision, and it can change, it can develop. That's perfectly okay. But you need to strive for something, You need something that keeps you warm at night, something that makes you want to wake up in the morning, something that helps you focus, that helps you keep you through dark hours. And then I mean, I'm a digital sort of, I work on issues connected to the internet. So therefore all of the great ideas I have are connected to the internet. But if you think, you know, that you want to do something completely different, perfect, do that, right? Do a bakery or something cool offline. That's perfectly fine too. But don't be afraid of leveraging the tools of the digital era of the world we live in now to create something meaningful across borders, across boundaries, that unites people. Because technology can exclude, no doubt about that, but technology can also be a very powerful force for the good, a force to expand our freedoms. We talk about censorship. Yes, we talk about how horrible algorithmic discrimination is. Yes, we talk about the violations of state through automated face recognition. All of that is horrible, that's true. But don't forget, against all of that background, how much our communicative possibilities have changed. With a click of one button, you have the world's knowledge at your hands. And this is something which never ceases to amaze me. And this is something which you can use. So the power of people, the power of politics, and the world's knowledge. Use that to realize for yourself and for your family and your communities the future that you want for yourself.
Thank you so much, Matthias, for this very powerful final words. I would like us to turn back all to Menti before giving the final 5 minutes for Basant. Can I ask you again to go to the Menti with the same code? Maybe someone can post the link again on the chat. Let me see if I can do it myself. I really encourage everyone to not waiting room, everyone. So let me see if I can also share my screen for the final. Can someone just tell me if you're seeing my screen, if it's on the Menti?
It is, it works well.
And if you can already start voting there. Let me see what the chat says. Yes, we can see it. So again, the Menti works this way that it is anonymous. You can write, you can share. This is what we need to know. We want to finish with our motto, our future is digital. So today we will what? Create a digital vision for the MENA region. We don't want to write long sentences so that we can keep actually time. So guys, ladies and gentlemen, tap on your computer. Tell us, what does the motto? Spread critical awareness. Maybe it's easier when you have to vote just like things versus writing. But I know we can get more than 2 people to interact. Work to make it equal. Be inclusive, include more people into our dialogue, digital future. I mean, Basant, maybe you can sort of unmute yourselves and comment on those really final words if you feel like it.
Yeah, I'm really happy that we have this feedback, and of course, creating a digital vision of the MENA region. This is one of the things Dr. Kettemann has discussed with us. I think we have just to digest what we have been discussing and debating for the last 3 days, Elina. So I'm myself. It was a festival, as we mentioned, but we have so many things which we have to work on. Sometimes it's for a network like Digital Arabia, it's not very easy to focus or to say, okay, the next step is, because we are working across different spheres, but we have to start. And I think we did already, you know, the first steps, and I hope we can keep working. And I see my camera is not working, right?
It was working a sec before.
And now?
Now you're back.
You see me?
Yes, we do.
Okay, perfect. Okay, maybe you can just stop sharing the screen, and then I would like to give the final words to about Rakameya. Thank you very much, Matthias, for this really inspiring talk. But I think we have, after Rakameya is before Rakameya. So I think we have to digest all what we have been discussing for the last 3 days. You know, we had 23 sessions, and we had more than 80 speakers and moderators, and 95% of them came from or come from the MENA region. We had sessions for every sphere of the 5 spheres of DAN. So by business of the future work, we talked about the platform economy, you mentioned it. We talked also about cyber security. We don't have a vision or a plan or a strategy in the whole region about cyber attacks and cyber crimes. But one of also the highlights of Rakameya was the sphere gender and inclusion, where we talked and connected initiatives working on fighting cyber crimes against women, and the first follow-up meetings are already scheduled for next week. So I think Rakameya was not only a platform or a collective space, as I described it in the opening, just to hold the presentation and exchange ideas, but we want to implement things. And digital art, we had a wonderful session today about digital art and culture. With the online media and journalism, not only we talked about fake news and had a great mapping about the digital media landscape in the MENA region, but we had training for journalists on solutions journalism, and the next step will be training these journalists on digital transformation. We want the journalists to understand digital transformation, to raise awareness, to write about the challenges, and to also to know how digital tools can offer solutions. And to connect in a region where I have to admit, and it's not a secret, whenever we do a national event, like meaning an event on Morocco or an event on Algeria, we get more than 200 participants, okay? Whenever we try to connect the region with different challenges, it's much more harder to reach the people. So my recommendation is, or my wish, my dream is to leave our borders, to leave the borders of our country and look right and look left and see how the digital community in our neighbor countries are meeting the challenges they are facing, because the challenges are very, very common in the region. It's nice to look to the northern sphere, and I myself live here in Germany, and we're trying to connect the diaspora. But I think this horizontal connection is extremely weak, and we need to work on that. But Rakameya is one of the spaces where we can work on that. As I said, I have myself to digest what we have discussed for the 3 past days. It was a festival by all means. We had more than 600 participants in our sessions, and I hope next year we will have more and more. And yeah, if anyone in the chat would like to ask something or recommend something, you will get an evaluation for the next Rakameya, and please feel free to give us hints. I have no idea whether we will move to a hybrid Rakameya, whether we will keep it like this. I think most of the participants here tonight are from the MENA region. They know that traveling and mobility is not something easy in our region. So it will be something, if we do it Rakameya in Lebanon or in Egypt or in Jordan or in Morocco, we will miss other countries. So the digital sphere is giving us this collective space for free, and I think we need to take advantage of that, because I think I'm not going to witness this in my life, to see we are all meeting in one country without having visa problems or I don't know, other political challenges of connecting and inviting people from the 22 Arab countries to one place. I think, Lina, this is what I want to say, and I'm really happy to have witnessed Rakameya this year after such a hard year for so many people, and still there were so many highlights during the 3 days. I thank you, Mariam, and thank you, Hanan, and yeah. You're muted, Lina. I can't hear you.
Thank you so much, Basant. I just want to take one more minute to create one canvas. But before I do that, the big thank you goes to Basant, for she is the main orchestrator for Rakameya and for the Digital Arabia Network. You have been bringing us all together. Chapeau bas, Basant. It's really amazing. Thanks also Rasha and Margarita and all the actors that really were able to make all this festival possible. If I may get all your attention just to write one word or 2 words about Rakameya, I will take a picture of this. So if you go back to the Menti, you are all at this. Rakameya is, let me take a snapshot once we have more than one person there. I do hope that you see my Rakameya Menti. Tap in, write what has been Rakameya for you. A family, growing network, community, future, empowering, a collective space for us. You can do more. We're only 4 people. We're 20-something people in this school. 5 people have already voted or actually spoken. Informative, inclusive. I mean, Basant, these are the words that you have to use in your next pitch about why do we need Rakameya 2020 sooner than later.
And thank you for all these words, but Lina, I have to say, without the volunteers, and you are one of them, and my team who is hearing, we will do Rakameya next year, starting next week, and the advisory board, and the steering committee, and all the volunteers who just contributed with their know-how, knowledge, and content for Rakameya. I think it was something amazing. We have all to be proud of, and بجد ألف شكر، ويعني بجد أنا سعيدة النهاردة جدا باللي احنا حققناه.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Kettemann, for really closing with us Rakameya. شكرا للجميع اللي كنتوا معنا ال3 أيام وشاركتونا، وأكيد أنتوا رح تكونوا الجزء الفعال إنه Rakameya 22 في شكل أو بآخر رح تكون دايما للأحسن. Checking out, wrapping up. Let's celebrate. شكرا للجميع. مع السلامة. Thank you so much. Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I will.
Hi, Lina. You are muted.
طبعا.
I know we have still people in the room, but I wanted to chit-chat with every one of you. So, unmute yourself.
We finished on time.
Perfect time, and all the people are still here. Forget
yeah,
I'm happy. But yeah, we need to discuss the next steps and plan.
Yeah,
and create a vision. This was nice to hear.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lina, for everything. Yani, you did a lot for Rakameya this year. Thank you.
And I was feeling like, don't talk to me. I have 3 days Rakameya. I have. I was feeling like almost like my baby. I have to take care that it's really working. بس I was talking to Rasha بأول السيشن إنه يعني we sometimes forget to say how amazing work has been look at Rakameya last year and Rakameya this year, Basan, this is something that you can be so proud of. يعني كل الاحترام.
الحمد لله، وإن شاء الله السنة الجاية تكون أحلى وأكبر، ونقدر إن إحنا نقدم فيها الشغل اللي إحنا هنبتدي نعمله لحد السنة الجاية بإذن الله.